Finding a job can be a daunting task. When job hunting overseas, one of the first things that come to mind is learning the local language. But landing a job abroad takes more than just understanding the role or the company. There's a whole range of factors to consider, from navigating workspace culture to figuring out different types of work permits. In this episode, we explore the ins and outs of job hunting overseas and share what we have learned along the way. Wish us luck in this endeavor! With that, pop on your earphones and tune in. Hi, Eiling. How's it like coming back to Japan after your trip?
Hey, Misha. It's like back to reality after 3 weeks in Malaysia. There was like Chinese New Year, and I had my wedding there as well, and a little honeymoon to an island. But now I'm back in Japan, and it's a wonderful hay fever season.
Oh no!
I mean, it's really nice outside. It's like sunny and a bit warm, and the flowers are starting to bloom. But yeah, you can probably hear I have a very stuffy nose right now.
Oh, it's the perfect welcome back to Japan.
Yes. How about you?
This time it actually hit me quite hard when I got back. Already at the airport, I noticed that people look kind of depressed over here.
Oh no.
And that it started the whole wave of sadness for a couple of days. I'm like wondering, what am I doing here?
Is it because it's cold? Is it because of the winter, or what is it?
Oh, I was actually quite lucky that I got back the moment the weather changed. So it has been very sunny since I got back. So I can't even blame the weather for that.
Yeah, it's just coming back from tropical Malaysia with friends and family, and then now you're so far away.
Yeah. Otherwise, what's going on in the world?
Have you ever thought, Misha, that you can go on Tinder or Bumble dating apps to try to connect with someone who's working in a company that you want to work?
That feels so wrong on so many levels. Isn't that like a HR violation?
I'm pretty sure it violates a lot of HR regulations. But that's exactly what a lot of desperate job seekers today are doing. So apparently, about a third of dating app users said they had looked for matches based on the prospect of getting career help from their matches on a dating platform.
Oh man.
So according to this article on the New York Post, among those who use dating apps for job-seeking purposes, 43% gained mentorship or career advice. 39% landed an interview. 37% received a referral or lead, and 37% received an offer. So I would say it's pretty promising.
Okay. Interesting. I hope they're at least upfront about it, in the beginning.
Yeah.
Not that they, pretend to be interested and then drop the bomb.
Yeah. But you have to be prepared pretending when you're like at the online stage, messaging stage, until you get to the first date. Yeah. It's a bit scammy.
I feel sad for the people actually trying to find a relationship on these platforms.
Maybe it could be a win-win. I don't know. You find a job and you find the love of your life.
Yeah, if that's the case, why not?
Yeah, and another thing I was looking at, there's this the Future of Jobs report 2025 by the World Economic Forum. And I was trying to figure out, like, given my background, how relevant am I going to be? And how easy is it for me to find a job all around the world? The two takeaways I had was that the fastest growing roles globally are, not very surprisingly, still software developers, project managers, teachers, healthcare workers, and personal care aides. Whereas like more clerical and administrative jobs are expected to shrink by 2030.
Okay.
Though this is the case, even for these like fast growing roles, over 80% of companies are trying to upskill their workers.
Okay.
One skill being able to use AI. I think that is like a big highlight regardless of what field you're in.
Yeah.
And in terms of geography, then the more developed countries today are actually the countries that are going to need more workers in general because of their aging population, whereas markets like Southeast Asia and Africa, they are the countries where their population are growing. So these are going to be the world's labor supply. These people are going to need to be able to mobilize themselves to countries like Japan and Europe where they fill in the labor shortage. Yeah.
So it sounds like you're in the perfect situation.
Yes, I'm that Southeast Asian moving from a growing population to shrinking population country. I'm that dot in the statistic.
When you find a job, what kind of permits do you consider out there?
Right. There are actually surprisingly like many different types of job permits for all the different countries. So in Japan, for example, a work permit could be an engineering visa or a highly skilled professional visa. Or I had a very specific visa called an intra-company transferee visa, because I was being transferred from my firm from one location to Japan.
Yeah.
And it's easy to think like, as long as I have a job visa, a work visa, I can work in the country, then it's same, right?
Yeah.
Actually, no. You need to pay attention to the fine print for all these visas. So one thing that I realized after being on the intra-company transferee visa was that I was getting very short period of visa, only like 1 year at each time.
Yeah.
So it's very troublesome to have to renew that visa.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I was bound to the company. So it was like, of course, intentional for my company to have chosen that visa type, which means that if I switch jobs, then the other company will have to sponsor my job permit. Yeah. And also the biggest thing is that if you are constantly granted like a 1 year visa in Japan, that actually makes you not eligible to apply for this points-based permanent residency.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think even if you're moving to a place and you have no plans of staying there term, you never know. So you always want to be on a work visa that gives you eligibility for permanent visa, or actually helps contribute to your eventual application. So yeah.
Yeah, I am on the receiving end of that type of permit. So I have been living in Switzerland for the past 10 years on a student permit. So unfortunately, for student permits, these years don't do a permanent residency.
Right.
So it is as if I have not lived here. It sucks. It really sucks.
I mean, it's insane because you were actually working as a PhD, right? Although it's called a PhD student, but you were still getting a salary.
Exactly.
Were you paying taxes?
Yes. I was doing everything a person who is working would do. I did all the contributions like any other person would, but because of the type of visa I was on, these years are not counted. And something for people to know if you want to pursue a postdoc in Switzerland is that even after you graduate from a PhD and now you are doing your own independent research as a postdoc, the first 2 years will still be on a student permit. And only after the second full year can you negotiate for a work permit.
Wow.
And one of the reasons why it's so tough in Switzerland is because they have very strict quotas of the number of work permits they give out. And every canton is given a specific number of work permits that they can give out in a year.
As regardless of field and industry?
Exactly. Wow. And this number is terrifyingly low. It's like 7,500 for the whole country.
Wow.
Yeah. And so what happens after these permits are given out is that every canton has to apply for like exceptions. So if they want to hire you, they have to really justify why do they need this person. And it gets harder when you're not from the EU.
Right.
Because they would have to justify
priority.
why not a Swiss person, why not an EU person, and then why you? What makes you so special?
Wow.
I had stories about companies who really wanted to hire somebody and they had to invent stories about, oh yeah, this person can play the trumpet.
Huh?
You can speak some Inuit languages or something. So it's tough.
I didn't know it was such like a high demand skill to play the trumpet.
Anything you can do to stand out, it gives a company an excuse to hire you.
Right? Yeah. And now in like this job market where it might already be difficult for locals to find jobs, and then on top of that, you need like a company to sponsor your work permit. That makes it like extra difficult. But I wouldn't have assumed that Switzerland had such a small quota, because I think Switzerland is also like aging population, right? Don't they really need people?
Yeah, it's a fine balance between needing workforce and wanting your country to quote unquote prosper.
Stay homogenous.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of understand.
It's a fine balance.
Yeah. You want to have like a steady intake that you can manage. They can assimilate.
Yeah, they are also going to have a vote later this year about whether they should cap the population at 10 million. So once the population hits 10 million, they kind of stop letting people in.
Wow. Yeah, even in Japan, they're also placing increasingly high demand on foreigners trying to find work in Japan, one of which is the language requirement. So
yes.
It also applies to like permanent residency. If you want to be able to get permanent residence, you need to have a certain level of Japanese proficiency, which didn't used to be the case. Which brings us to the point of having to use a different language and your non-native language at a job. And it starts with being able to do an interview in that language.
Yeah.
So Misha, have you been doing interviews in German?
I've had to. I had to speak German at some point in time in the interview.
Wow.
It was very nerve-wracking.
I can imagine.
I have to say that it's hard to make yourself sound proficient when you're thinking of like, how can I structure this sentence in the right way?
Yes, it's like already stressful itself to be in an interview. And on top of that, you have to say it in a different language.
Yeah.
It's like a double whammy. Yeah. I remember when I had to do an interview in Japanese, and I had like practiced a lot of, different scenarios in Japanese. So I didn't feel confident by the time I had my first interview, but I felt like, I probably could handle it. And then during the interview, they said, you know what? We need you to speak Mandarin. So can you please introduce yourself in Mandarin?
You stated that you are native, right?
我叫马伊琍，我在这个行业10年了。Yeah, it was very cringe. It was very cringe.
Beware of what you list in your CV and be prepared to show.
Yes. But at the end of the day, I think like if you're trying to do interviews in like Japanese, for example, for me, I kind of improved as I went along, like the number of times I had interviews in Japanese. Usually the first interview is quite standard, right? So you just get a lot of practice on how to present yourself and how to make it feel a bit more natural, and being able to communicate well regardless of the language.
Yes.
So I've been like at the other side of the table. I've been an like interviewer before, many times actually. And I find like even if someone's English is not that great, like their grammar is wrong here and there, you don't really care about those things. What you care about is whether or not they understood your question. If they didn't understand, if they asked for clarification. And then if they answer in a relevant way, even if it's like a very basic way of explaining something, but they could actually explain what they did and prove that they have knowledge in that area. It's actually not such a big deal if it's not perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's important to remind oneself, like there are more important things to care about in these interviews. And a friend of mine works in a company in German, and that's not her native language. And she told me it is to her advantage that she's not native and she still makes mistakes because her clients are less picky with her. Like they nitpick less and she's able to land more deals.
Wow.
Yeah, so it could be to your advantage at some point in time.
Foreigner's charm.
But you did mention something about like, asking clarifying questions, rephrasing the question before you answer them. And for me, I had to learn it the hard way after interviewing with a big tech company. And that was the feedback that I got because I took my first interviews as an exam. So if they asked me a question, I thought what I had to do was to answer the question and give them the best answer I could. But it turns out it's not the case and it's more like a conversation. We should still show what we can do, but it's not so much like an order to execute. Yeah, it's unintuitive for me because, first of all, you just call with the professor once, and then if they like you, they invite you for a presentation at their lab. You give the presentation, and then people ask you questions, and your job is to answer the question. And then they make a decision there if they want to hire you or not. So there's no real like, oh yeah, what do you mean by this? Unless the question really wasn't clear, right? So I think it takes like a little bit of learning of what the norm is outside of academia to be able to ace these interviews.
Yeah, I think it could be like because the skills that they're looking for is almost a little bit different. I'm just like assuming here, but if you're like doing your PhD or your postdoc, then you're supposed to be researching independently in an area and building your own data set and doing your own studies and coming up with like your own hypotheses and conclusions. So you would be the expert in that area that you're studying, right? So when someone asks you a question about what your experience or the studies that you have done, then you're expected to have all the answers because you did it.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas when you're in like looking out for like a corporate job, then it's more like there is no right answer. There is only like there are different problems out there, and depending on the problem, the solution can be different.
Yeah.
So it's always about like defining the problem. So a lot of time people want to find people who can have a clear understanding of the problem first.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, understanding the context and then trying to come up with some form of solution.
Exactly.
Say you pass all the rounds of interviews and then it comes to this very scary point, salary negotiation. Yeah, I mean, I personally have no experience with salary negotiation because in academia, we follow a pay scale and you get what you get. And that's kind of it. How has it been like for you?
I wouldn't say I have a lot of experience negotiating salary as well, but I do think it's very important to have a figure in mind. Of course, don't go like blindly and just accepting whatever they offer you. And if it's not what you want, you can always ask for a higher, like it never hurts to ask. And if it's like, the monetary value doesn't reach what you expected, does the benefits actually make up for it in some way? But I'm actually still a strong believer in the money value of your salary because that is what's going to be compounded on every year if you work in the same company.
That's true.
So if you have a low base, you're just compounding on that low base. And one day you're going to realize like the new joiners in the firm is earning more than you because market rate has gone up faster than your yearly increment, you know?
So what do you do when you ask for a certain amount and they say no?
I don't think it's usually I don't think they would say no. They will usually come with a counter offer, right? If they say like, no, okay, the money value is fixed, this is like the absolute maximum that we can give you, then you can start negotiating benefits and stuff. Like, can I work from home full time then? Then I want to save on my commuting expense. Or can I get a free car, company car, give me a car.
Free car, free house, free phone.
Free meals.
60 days of holiday.
Exactly.
Make it 360. It's okay.
Exactly. So I think there are like many ways you can negotiate for a better deal. It's a whole package.
Yes.
It's just not like no means no. And it also takes them time and effort to interview you and make you an offer, you know? So I feel like if you've reached the level where they've made you an offer, chances are the company also wants to hire you.
I guess they give you an offer expecting you to negotiate. So if you don't do it, you're definitely losing out.
Exactly. There's like always room for upwards adjustment. They're not going to start with the absolute max, you know. And other than salary, it's also very important to be careful of the details of your contract.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah. In Japan, there are different types of contracts. You can be like a contract worker or a full-time worker. And it's always better to be a full-time worker. You have so much more safety in terms of, you know, their ability to just terminate your contract. And you're also more eligible for salary adjustments year to year.
I found out something that shocked me in Switzerland, which is the permanent contracts over here are not very permanent because the maximum notice period is still 3 months. So they can terminate you anytime they want, basically. It doesn't feel so permanent.
That's quite interesting. I thought like EU countries are generally very protective of their workers.
Switzerland is not in the EU.
Oh,
that's
true.
why.
And in Sweden, I think it's almost impossible to fire someone who has worked for a very long time in a company. Yeah. But on the flip side, people get a bit touchy if you have changed jobs a lot of times, then they feel a bit more skeptical about you. That's also the same thing in Japan. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of this old school mentality where you're expected to serve the company for a very long period of time, at least, if not your whole life.
Yes, loyalty. Yeah, does that even exist anymore?
Yeah, I was actually listening to a podcast who said that after every year or 2 years, the move you should do is to get into the job market anyway, even if you're not looking for a job, get a position and then use that as leverage to increase your salary. And people who do that get a dramatic raise over time because of these compounding factors that you were referring to before.
I wish these people would just get the hell out of the job market. It's already hard enough for us who are actually looking for a job, you know?
That is true.
No.
From my experience, what I found particularly frustrating is that there are so many rounds of interviews to get a job.
It's ridiculous these days.
And I feel like every round requires you to have different skills and different things that you have to study for. And then they just cut you off.
Yeah, something is so broken with the current system of job searching. It's so demanding.
Yeah, if you think about it, it's like so much time and so much effort.
Yes, with no compensation unless you have like unemployment benefits. Yeah, I think that's like one thing that's making me a bit worried this time around looking for a job in Sweden. I'm just worried that this is like the time and age where it's like the norm for people to apply for like 500 jobs on LinkedIn. I'm like,
yeah.
You can't know the content of all those jobs. You can't know what all those companies do.
Definitely not.
And it's just like this mass application and mass rejection and mass like silence, you know, that ghosting.
Yes.
It's just so frustrating. It's so inefficient. Is this really how job searching should work at this age and time? It's like throwing your time into an abyss, you know, and just praying that something comes back out of it.
Yes, definitely feels like that, especially when you've applied for like hundreds of jobs. You've done all the variations of your CV, you've edited it to the job description, and you don't know what to do anymore at some point. What else can I do?
To the point where opening your CV is like triggering like PTSD, like I can't look at this document anymore. It's like, how many variations of this can I write?
Yes. It's just really not only tiring at some point, it's also kind of frustrating because you're not getting feedback on what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. And if you show it to other people who have jobs, who have more experience, they're like, oh yeah, it's a good CV. It's like, well then, what's wrong?
Right? And then people are like saying, oh, you just need to use AI to fine tune your CV to different jobs. And then I tried doing that because it's like literally impossible to write like 10 different CVs and 10 different cover letters in 1 week for like. And it's so fast, these openings just open and then like you already see like 500 people have clicked apply on this thing. So it's like, oh shit, how am I supposed to stand out, right? And then you throw it to ChatGPT or something and it comes out. And it's like, at the first glance, it's like, this is not bad. This is actually workable. And then you read closely and then you're like, I wonder what this term means. If someone asks me in an interview what I mean by this, like, I have no idea.
Yeah. And I also realized that ChatGPT adds like result of things that you've done that doesn't exist. So you're like, I wish I had these outcomes, but I don't know where they come from.
Yeah, they just think it's always nice to have some stats in there. So just make up some numbers. But to be honest, right, I also put some stats in my CV. But if you ask me to explain those stats, it's very arbitrary. It's like
as long as you can come up with an explanation of where that came from.
Yeah.
For today's trivia, we'll be talking about job hunting, careers, and jobs that don't exist anymore.
Wow.
The first question is, where in the world was there the first record of a CV being sent out for a job? Is it China, Italy, or the US?
I would say China.
The answer is Italy. The first record of a CV is actually a letter written in 1482 by Leonardo da Vinci to the Duke of Milan to secure his employment as a military engineer.
What?
Yeah.
Wow. So it's this guy, who started it all.
He started all of this mess.
I guess that makes sense. In China, it's all the
exams.
Yeah, should have guessed.
Question number 2. What is the etymology of the word career? Is it A, a horse running at full speed in a race? B, a craft or skill? Or C, a calling or destiny?
Ooh. Of course, it must be a calling or destiny, right?
Of course not.
No.
The word career comes from Latin cararia or carriage, and at some point in time actually meant a horse running at full speed, like a carriage. And this is the general course of one's professional life.
That explains a lot. It's just like a runaway horse dragging a cart, and you just don't know what the hell is happening.
You're in the rat race of life. It seems kind of grim, actually. There's no inspiration, you know. Okay. The third question is actually a blitz round. So I'll say a job title that used to be a thing but has largely disappeared. And you tell me what you think this person who has this job does.
Okay.
What would a knocker-upper do?
A knocker-upper would fix ships.
It was before alarm clocks were common. Knocker-uppers would wake workers up by tapping on their windows or doors.
But they would have very short work time.
Yes. And they have to be really efficient.
Yes. Their 30-minute shifts done.
Yeah.
Job done for the day.
Might be a part-time job, like a gig maybe. What would an ice cutter do?
Ice cutter? Literally cut ice?
For which purpose?
They would harvest ice for the royal family so that they can have ice lemonade during the summer.
That is quite close. It's for refrigerators before electricity was a thing. Essentially, they would have big blocks of ice in refrigerators to cool the space down. Okay. What would a powder monkey do?
Powder monkey?
Yeah.
Sounds very derogatory.
It does sound that way.
Sounds like it's some sort of performer, some sort of entertainer.
These were young boys on naval warships that carried gunpowder from the magazine to cannons during a battle.
Oh, that's very different.
Yes. And also the fact that they call them monkeys. Not nice.
Right? I guess they have to be very nimble and fast.
I don't know. Back then with child labor. Okay. What would a pin setter do?
A pin setter?
Mm-hmm.
Some sort of tailoring related job?
Cute. Good guess.
Seamstress?
It's a job that, if it were to be in Malaysia, would be in shopping malls related to a sport.
Related to a sport?
Yes.
In shopping malls? What kind of sport is conducted in shopping malls?
At least that's what I've seen done. Maybe it's not true. In bowling alleys, workers would manually reset the pins after each roll.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. That kind of pin.
Yeah.
That pin. Okay. Cool.
It's interesting to see how these jobs used to be common, and it helps us understand that, these jobs come and go, and what's important is to evolve with the world situation. And that's all from us today. Thanks for tuning in. If you're thinking of finding a job overseas, check out episode 2 on the bureaucracy of moving abroad. See you next time. Have a great day ahead.